What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right. So, shout out to one of my subscribers for telling me about this, showing me the graphic. And I don't really want to show the graphic here. But, well, I guess I'll put it on the screen. It's a little small. But I don't want to make it the main graphic that I show. So you'll see this graphic. See if I can pull it up here. So this graphic about the 3 players in the history of the NBA to win multiple championships without a top 75 player, right? And you'll see Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Steph Curry. And it says end of the list. Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. George Mikan won 5 NBA championships without a top 75 teammate. I'm like, at this point, you can't tell me that they're trying to rewrite history. And like I said before, if you're not going to include George Mikan, then motherfucker, don't include those championships when you're doing a dick measuring contest for Boston. Period. You can't have it both ways. You can't include those titles when you're talking about their dynasty, but then don't want to give George Mikan credit as an individually great player. And then make up records. Like I saw last night. Josh Giddy had another triple-double, right, for the Bulls. And I got to admit, the Giddler's playing well, right? But I'm like this. The reason why I won't give the Giddler much credit is because people want to discredit Karl Malone's greatness because of something he did when he was a teenager. Now, was Karl Malone a scumbag and how he moved in real life? Yeah. But I don't like how the people want to sweep under the rug what the Giddler has been accused of, which much evidence showing he's a creep when you look into it, right? But the NBA don't want to ruin his choir boy image for some reason. But people want to talk about what Karl Malone did when he was in college, before he got into the pro, right? Now, what he did was very, very questionable about today's standards, right? But I don't want to go into that because, you know, people show their biases. There's a lot of buck dancers running around here want to talk about Giddy and how the culture is different in Australia. But when I talked about how the culture was different in the South, you know, back in the day, when it comes to those matters, they don't want to hear that. Goddamn Jason Whitlock's running around here. But anyway, getting back to the point. The reason why I brought up Giddler is because he had his 7th triple-double. I see some articles say this was Josh Giddey's 7th triple-double of the season, which is the record for most triple-doubles in a season by a Bull since Michael Jordan's 15 in 1988. I said, wait a minute. Well, that means not a record then. What are you talking about? You're just making up records? You understand what a record means? A record is the most of something, the greatest quantity of something that's ever been achieved in any particular category. It's not a record. They're making up stuff, man. It's so annoying, man. This analytic era is so annoying. They make up stupid stats, which ignorant people regurgitate, take it as fact. And then we have to be inundated with their ignorance. And then when we try to show them the real deal, then we're called haters. It's a very frustrating cycle. I've even seen people omit George Mikan when it comes to players that have won three-peats. They'll say only 3. I've seen people on TV say it. I heard Chris Broussard say it once. There's only been 3 players that have three-peats. There's only been 3 three-peats. Well, I won't say 3 players, you know what I mean. There's only been 3 teams that three-peat. Russell Celtics, Kobe Shaq Lakers, and Jordan's Bulls. That's it. No, Chris. George Mikan Lakers three-peated as well. Then had a repeat, if I'm not mistaken. 5 titles. I think they won 5 titles in 6 years. I think the only title squeezed in there that wasn't there in that stretch, I think it was the Rochester Royals. I believe it was 1951. I think 1951. So, no. And by the way, the Rochester Royals became the Cincinnati Royals. Then became after they were the Cincinnati Royals with Oscar Robertson, they became, I believe, the Kansas City Omaha Kings for a decade, and then ultimately the Sacramento Kings, the team that we know today. So the Kings do have a championship in their franchise history. But anyway, the disrespect to George Mikan is ridiculous. The league's first superstar. The guy was box office, okay? And yes, he shot 40% for his career, but the game was totally different. You could maul players back then. The game was more akin to football. Players would routinely get broken, busted eyes or black eyes, you know what I'm saying? Bone fractures, teeth knocked out. It was legal to double hand check back then. I think up until Mikan's time, there was no such thing as goaltending in the NBA. So that's more shots being considered blocks that aren't being credited as goaltending, meaning hence a field goal. And, the lighting wasn't as great. The equipment wasn't great. These guys were wearing Chuck Taylors. The balls weren't as great. And when I say the lighting wasn't as great, I mean in the stadiums. There's a lot of things that were at a detriment for them. Their travel, was more tiresome. A lot of these guys in that era still had off-season jobs. So they weren't getting the 24/7 prep for playing basketball that these guys enjoy today. And the way the game was played was different. It took set shots, and they didn't really drive to the basket. Well, they drove to the basket, but dunking, you just didn't have the shots these guys take today as far as, and the strategy for today. And the athleticism wasn't what it was today. Hell, the athleticism, what it would be, wasn't what it was in the 50s, what it became in the 60s. So, I don't know, I'm kind of ranting a little bit today. Just irritated, man. I'm just annoyed at this disrespect. And I notice it's primarily being aimed at centers because the analytic nerds don't really respect the center position. That's why Moses Malone is criminally underrated. That's why people are putting Joker ahead of all-time great centers as if they didn't exist. They put him ahead of, or like right on par with Wilt. They're putting him ahead of Bill Russell, who had the greatest dynasty ever. They're putting him ahead of Dave Robinson, like Dave Robinson never existed. They're putting him ahead of Moses Malone, whose resume still, I think, trumps Jokic if you really do your damn research and look at his resume. Because what it is people just look at Moses Malone and they think that because he got this solid body with the balding hairline that he's not that good. They don't understand that Moses Malone tutelaged Akeem Olajuwon in the offseason when he was, Olajuwon was at the University of Houston and Moses Malone with the Rockets. And even afterwards, Moses Malone helped tutelage Charles Barkley and helped Charles Barkley work on his work ethic. So Moses Malone had that leadership ethos that a lot of these guys don't have today. Moses Malone's one of the all-time greats. And in my opinion, Moses Malone in his prime was school Shaq. But that's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? He damn sure used to school Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So he's criminally underrated. Another great player that's underrated today is Bob Pettit. When I was growing up, Bob Pettit was considered one of the top 3-4 power forwards that ever played the game. Some would even argue he was the best all-around power forward as far as dominance, longevity, as far as how great he played, because he could have played longer than he did. I think his last year, Pettit averaged 20 points a game. And I think he was only 32, 33 when he retired. And he put up 20,000 career points in an era where it was, you know what I'm saying, you could argue it was offensive friendly or became more offensive friendly, but it was still not, there was no three-point shot. But anyway, tremendous rebounder. I think his defense was average, but tremendous rebounder, a great player, one of only two players other than the other one being Wilt to win a championship during the Bill Russell dynasty era. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.